Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and I just love pale ales. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast with Raymond Hatfield, the podcast dedicated to interviewing world-class photographers to ask them the questions you want answered. Whether you want to be the world's best wedding photographer, family photographer, pet photographer, or you just want to take better photos of your kids growing up, we will get you to start taking better photos today. Here with you as always, husband, father, home brewer, LA Dodgers fan, and award-winning Indianapolis wedding photographer, Raymond Hatfield.
Hey, welcome back. I am Raymond, your host of the Beginner Photography Podcast. And today we have something a little bit different. There is no interview today, but there is a topic that I do want to talk about. And it's something that, as a beginner, probably weighs heavier on your mind than you think that it does. It influences you in ways that maybe you're not aware of, but can really change the course of wherever it is that you want to take your photography, whether that's just to become very proficient in using your camera, a serious hobbyist, or even, starting your own business one day. And that is anticipation. Anticipation is huge when it comes to really any sort of goal. Anything that you want to apply in life, anticipation plays a big part of that. So when, even going back to school, right? You're in high school, you didn't enjoy high school, you're ready to graduate, and you're anticipating leaving, because leaving means that more things are going to happen for you. Leaving means that a whole new world is going to become available to you, that you can go out in, thrive, and really enjoy life more than you did in high school. Wow, suddenly it's like all these real life emotions are coming out from high school that I wasn't expecting to happen. But I don't know, maybe you felt the same way about high school, maybe you didn't. My point is that anticipation can be used in several ways, right? It can be a motivating factor, and it can really push you in the right direction, which is so important, right? Some people have this chip on their shoulder. They've been dealt a pretty poor hand of cards. They've been dealt a poor hand. Does that make sense, right? Anyway, and maybe it's more difficult for them. Maybe they got into photography late in life after they've had kids, they have a mortgage, they have a family that they have to look after, and they don't have the freedom to really give it a go on their own, like somebody who is 18, 19 would, right? There's more expenses as you get older. There's more responsibility as you get older, and photography is not as it is not as luxurious, I suppose, as it's thought out to be sometimes. It's not as lucrative as thought to be. I remember growing up thinking about photographers, and it's even still like to this day, a lot of people think this, they think of, a photographer, they're off, photographing models on a beach, and they're driving a Ferrari, and just living this great life. And while photography does have a lot of perks, I genuinely love my life. There's a lot of things that I get to do that a lot of people don't, or that I didn't get to do before going full time, right? And I'm not even talking about that you have to go full time, but just that, I get to spend my time with couples who are genuinely like in love with each other, right? They enjoy spending time with each other, and that excitement is contagious, right? And we get to do things that that they're into, that are really exciting. Then that gets them even more excited. And this is fun for me because I get to kind of peek into the lives of other people. I know what I get to do in life. I know what sort of things I enjoy. And but being a part of another couple doing something that they enjoy, feeling alive, is really something special. And I love doing that, right? And when I was still working at a day job, I still got to go out and do engagement sessions and still get to experience this. And it was that anticipation, like, oh man, I cannot wait to do this full time. I can't wait to go out and shoot more engagement sessions, go to more weddings. I can't wait to do this, right? And that anticipation is what drove me to work harder, to put everything in place to be able to start a business, right? So this episode isn't going to be purely about running a business, owning a business, starting a business, anything like that. Literally every aspect of photography should be able to listen to this and get something out of this, right? So first, anticipation, right, is this month's theme over at the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group. So every month we have been having this year so far, having a monthly photo theme where the community, the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group family, takes photos. Last month it was passion. There was a lot. It was great because I got to see what made a lot of people passionate. For most of the members, it's their family, and I totally understand that. For me, I would do anything for my kids. I would do anything to see them succeed, and that is part of my passion. I love that. So seeing that other people feel the same way about their family and loved ones was really exciting, and it's cool that I got to kind of peek into that. Again, what's with me peeking into stuff? This is not going the direction that I wanted, but being able to see a little snippet of their life and what gets them excited was really cool. And this month, the monthly photo theme is anticipation, and that can mean so many things, right? In a photograph, it could be your dog waiting to be given that treat, right? It could be a photo of your kids waiting for the snow to finally melt, which I think here in Indy we should be good, but I'm hearing sometime this week it's going to snow again, which is just ridiculous. I wish that the weather would just make up its damn mind, So anticipation can be everywhere. It can be, maternity photos. Something's going to happen, right? Why are you taking these photos? It's because a baby's coming. You're anticipating a baby, right? But there is a difference between being excited about something and anticipating something, right? Being excited about something, you can get excited about a lot of things. I get excited when the mail comes, even if I don't have anything coming. But the anticipation of when a package that I've ordered off of Amazon is coming makes me even more excited for the mail to arrive. Anticipation is when you have a plan and you're working towards it. When you know that something is going to be happening in the future, and you're making sure that, or you're betting that nothing is going to change what is going to happen, and you're excited for it, right? Sometimes you're not always excited when you anticipate something. I'm sure that you could anticipate going to jail if you did something terrible, and that wouldn't be very exciting. Not that I've ever been in that situation, but, you would never be excited to go to jail. You know what I mean? I guess I'm just trying to make a distinction here between excitement and anticipation. And anticipation looks different at the different stages of your photography too. When you're first getting started, anticipation is things like, when you first get the camera, you're excited about it. But when you learn about manual mode and you learn that how you can adjust your camera settings to be able to take a photo that you see in your mind, or to change the overall look of the image, suddenly learning manual mode, that anticipation of better photographs ahead, is really exciting. So learning camera settings, and then it becomes the same thing with posing your couples. Posing is very difficult. It doesn't matter if it's a family, a pet, couple, whatever it is, just a single person. Posing can be very difficult. But suddenly, one day you're going to be on YouTube and you're going to see this one video of somebody posing, a couple, or whatever, and you think, wow, this is easier than I thought. Suddenly it's been broken down in a way that I can understand and that I can pair it to the subjects in front of my camera. And suddenly there's that anticipation again. You get really excited. So you go out there and you practice that and you get better at it, just like you did your camera settings. which now you're proficient in. Now you go out and you start working on posing. Bam, you're starting to nail this. After time, of course. This all takes time. This isn't like a 1 day, 2 day, weekend, week-long thing. This is a long journey, right? So you're getting more excited every single day. And then once posing, you become good at, then it's lighting, man. Lighting is so important. Watching movies, getting, what's the word that I'm looking for? I'm having like a total brain fart right now. Inspiration, getting inspiration from watching movies and cinema, getting inspiration to change your lighting or change your edit. Again, that is the anticipation. When you go out there and you just get really excited and you just go hard at it. Of course, once you progress out of that, you're very proficient in your camera settings, your posing, your lighting. Now, if you decide that you want to go towards a business, then, things like marketing or sales, branding. Branding is a fun one. Branding is more than just a logo and your name. It's who you are, what it is that you stand for. It's what your story is. And that's branding. So trying to craft that, because it's not as easy as like, hey, I'm Raymond, I shoot weddings, right? That's not a brand. A brand is like, hey, I'm Raymond, I love being outdoors. I support nonprofit organizations. I donate part of my profits to charities, These are the charities. Suddenly, when a couple sees that or hears that has nothing to do with a logo or your name, but they can get behind that. They can get behind your brand, who you are, and what it is that you stand for. Anticipation is, it should never end. It never goes away. Even at this stage right now, I'm working on some new marketing from a video that I saw, surprisingly, on YouTube. YouTube has so much information. It's great. And I'm trying it out. I'm getting it ready. I haven't tried it out yet. I'm getting it ready. And I'm really excited for it. And that anticipation for the feedback that I hear from brides, and how they react in terms of where they spend their dollars, hopefully it's with me, is getting me excited. That anticipation is getting me excited, I'm just trying to do everything that I can right now to make sure that I have put all my ducks in a row, so that when the ad goes live, that there's a positive response. I'm not anticipating a negative response. If I was, I wouldn't be doing this ad. But that's what it's all about. And it will never go away. Just because you're a beginner doesn't mean that anticipation will one day go away, right? You have this. In the beginning of the year, maybe you first got your camera and you're like, this is awesome. This is so cool. I'm going to shoot everything with it. And then February rolls around and you're like, okay, I'm starting to see that there's more to this whole photography thing than just pulling out my camera, snapping away and hoping for the best. That's when the passion really comes in, and that's the catalyst to be able to move you forward. And now here we are in March in anticipation, starting to figure out where it is, or making a decision. And it doesn't have to be a permanent decision, but making some sort of decision on potentially where you want to go with your photography, what it is that you want to do with your photography, and using that anticipation as your motivator to keep you going. And again, it never goes away. It never goes away. Sometimes you have bad days, it'll get you down, but anticipation will never go away. Right now I'm thinking about myself personally and the podcast. I have, a roadmap. It's all laid out. I know exactly where I want to take the podcast. And now it just has to be done. It has to be executed. But it takes time. And that time is what's causing my anticipation, because I'm so excited. I see what the future holds for the podcast. I feel like we're almost to this tipping point. We're still going up this roller coaster. And we're about to get to the top. And as my ninth grade science teacher would tell me, we're about to turn all this potential energy into kinetic energy. And that kinetic energy is what I am excited for. But getting there is the anticipation. I have tutorials planned. I have courses coming out planned. One, which maybe a secret, may not be a secret, depending on how much you pay attention if you are in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group. But I have a course coming out on Flash that I'm really excited for, right? To me, as somebody who does this day in and day out, I feel like Flash is just another tool that I use, and it's just what I got to do to do my job. But hearing from you, from the listeners, from the community of the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, I know that Flash is not something that you just inherently know. It's something that you have to work towards. And now it's so great to see so many listeners, maybe yourself included, especially if you're in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, but you have understood manual. You're shooting in it, and you can't go back. So now what's next? What's next? You know, you can always get better at manual, sure, but now that you're proficient in it, now you want to move on to something else. Start working towards a bigger goal. And for a lot of you, it's Flash, it's lighting. So that is a course that will be coming out sometime this year. I can't give away too many details, but it will be coming out in 2018, and I will be sure to let you all know if you are subscribed to the newsletter, which you can sign up for at beginnerphotographypodcast.com. You just go ahead and sign up for our free 14-day course, which is called Photography Basics for Beginners, 14 Days to Better Photos. Once you sign up for that course, you're automatically going to be enrolled in our newsletter, and that is where you're going to be able to find out more. And I'm really excited. Now I'm excited. I know that you're excited. I'm excited because I can't wait to hear your feedback. I can't wait to see how it helps you and grows your photography, because I use off-camera flash all the time, even on-camera flash. And I know how it can progress your photos forward, how much it can move your photos forward. Learning the difference between learning auto, which is nothing, you just turn it to the green button on your dial and on your camera and then just start taking photos, to the photos that you can achieve in manual mode is a huge jump. And I feel like learning flash is the same huge jump. Even if you know manual, you kind of have to know manual to be able to shoot off-camera flash. So these are things that I'm excited for. You know, anticipation is, while you're shooting, can also be one of your strongest allies. At a wedding, there are certain things that happen at every wedding, right? And knowing when those things are going to happen can, you know, make sure that you get a good shot. It's putting on the dress, the first kiss, cutting the cake, all these things, right? You know that they're going to happen. You're anticipating them, so you can put yourself in a good spot to make sure that you can get a great photo of these things. But then there's some things at weddings that you can't anticipate. But if you're paying attention to your surroundings, you can have a better shot at it. So things like, oftentimes, you know, maybe a mom isn't helping put on the dress, but all the bridesmaids are. Knowing that the mom is still going to be in that room and probably off in a corner, like, you know, kind of sniffling, crying, you know, realizing that her daughter is now a woman and is going off into the real world, right? That cry is anticipation. You can see that coming. If you pay attention to your surroundings, you can see what's happening and you can prepare. You can get in front of the bride, shoot a photo with the mom in the background, you know, sniffling, crying, wiping the tears out of her eyes, whatever it is. You can anticipate those things, but they don't happen at every wedding. There's other things like, you know, you can kind of get a feel for, let me rephrase that. You can kind of get an idea of how the flower girl acts, right? A lot of younger flower girls are kind of spontaneous, right? And maybe the flower girl is going to take one step down that aisle and just dump out the entire bucket of flowers right away and have nothing else for the rest of the aisle. That is something that maybe you can't anticipate, but getting an idea of their confidence level or how they're acting right before the ceremony can give you a good idea of what might or might not happen. You know, these are things that this is where anticipation can really up your game as a photographer, and that's why being present is really important. Really important. Recently, in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, I hope that she doesn't mind me sharing this story. Carrie is a new photographer. Because of the podcast, I believe that she started to learn manual, and now she's full on in it. In fact, the other day, she just had made a comment that she can't go back to auto now. It just doesn't make sense for her. And that's great because I've seen the quality of her photos go up. She's still learning. She's not perfect, but that's that anticipation again, moving her forward. And she had recently shot a wedding that turned out less than ideal for her. There was a lot of things that she wasn't prepared for, right? A church that was, that in her words, was as dark as a movie theater, right? And it's hard to take photos in conditions like that, and I totally understand, missing certain moments and stuff. I get it. These are hard things. She started to question whether or not she even wanted to shoot any more weddings, because she had been approached by another couple who asked her to shoot their wedding. And she came into the group and had a heart-to-heart with us. Like, I don't even know if I want to do this. I don't even know if I like shooting weddings. They're asking me to do this, but what if I screw it up? I wasn't happy with how the last wedding turned out. What if this wedding is just as bad? And what I think the general consensus was that now you understand the flow of a wedding. You're going to be able, like, in a different sense than just being a guest at a wedding. As a photographer, it's more intimate. You're in it. Like, you're on the front line. You're there. You got to figure these things out right away. And as a photographer, you can now anticipate what is going to be happening next. And I can't really, it's hard to give like concrete answers of what's going to happen because every wedding is different. But now that she's been to this first wedding, understood how it went, understood where she wasn't happy with her work, her photos, the shortcomings that she faced, she can now better prepare for this next wedding. We told her, hey, look, if weddings aren't your thing, don't do it, but if you're saying that you don't want to shoot any more weddings just because you had a poor experience last time, don't let that stop you. Know what it was that didn't work last time, work on it for this time, and you'll be better. I'm not saying that, you're going to shoot the perfect wedding your second time out, but you're going to be a hell of a lot better this time than you were last time, and now guess what? You're going to realize new challenges that you faced, new shortcomings and things that you need to work on. I do this at every single wedding. I think about it afterwards. On the drive home, I think, what went wrong and how can I better prepare next time? And I'll give you an example. In just recently, last month, 2 months ago, December, I shot a wedding. And when I first got there, it was all in one location. The ceremony and the reception was all in one location. And when I first got there, typically what I do is, I introduce myself to the other vendors when I have a moment. Of course, the bride first, groom, and then all the other vendors, right? Just to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page. And one thing that's pretty common for photographers is that you don't want your gear stolen, but you have a lot of gear. So where are you going to put it? Oftentimes the DJ is the perfect place. They got a little booth that's already set up. They got, nobody's going to go back there because the DJ is going to be there the whole time protecting his equipment. He doesn't have to be anywhere else. So I asked the DJ, hey, can I put, my gear right here? Yeah, absolutely. It's never a problem. Or I take that back. It's rarely. I've never encountered it as a problem, but I could see it doesn't matter. So I put my stuff down there and it was cool. It was awesome. No big deal. So the morning happened, the pre-ceremony, I was taking photos of the bride, getting ready, the groom, putting on his cufflinks and his tie and getting ready himself. And then it came time for the ceremony. So for the ceremony, I shoot with two cameras, one with a telephoto zoom lens, and then the other one with a wider prime lens, just so that I can have kind of everything covered. And then of course I keep my bag on me with additional lenses, which I rarely ever switch out, but I have them just in case. And luckily I had them this time, because if I would have paid attention, this was a venue that I've never shot at before. If I would have paid better attention, I would have known that the DJ booth was surrounded by tables, where because like I said, the ceremony and the reception were in the exact same room. So what they did was they just had everybody sit at their tables, nice little elegant setup that they had. It was a very small, intimate wedding. Had everybody sitting at their tables to watch the ceremony, and then afterwards it was time to eat, right? So if I would have paid better attention, I would have seen that the DJ booth was surrounded by tables of the guests, and that come time for the ceremony, I wasn't going to have access to my camera bag where I left my other camera, my second camera, with the long telephoto zoom. So, ceremony starts. Okay, all that I have is this one camera, which is fine, I wasn't worried about that. But my longest lens was an 85. And this room, the way that it was set up with the tables in the way, and difficult to get close-ups of the couple up there. I like to get a real tight close-up of the exchange of rings. It's just a nice photo to have. Same with the kiss. And then I switched to the wides. I mean, for a situation like this, I turned out okay because it was a very small location. However, there was about a dozen or so photos that I really, really would have felt better about if I would have got with that telephoto zoom. That's something that I could have anticipated, And now, when I got in the car, I thought, what went wrong at this wedding? That is what went wrong for me. That was the biggest concern that I had for the day. Now, I knew that the couple wasn't going to come back and be like, hey, man, what happened here? Because there's nothing that happened wrong. It was just something that I didn't get to the best of my abilities. And now I know at every wedding, if I show up in it and I encounter the exact same, I have another wedding this year at the exact same venue, I will know. This time I will know not to place my camera bags that close, or like right there with the DJ, that close to the ceremony. I will have them closer with me or in another location. If I have an assistant that day, then I will have them watch the bags. So now I know. Every single wedding, you're going to encounter new challenges that you're going to have to anticipate for next time. And that's the only way that you can get better. That's it. That's all that we got, man. This interview was not an interview. This episode, I really hope that you took something away from it. I really hope that it made you feel better about maybe a mistake that you made in the past or a decision that you wish would have went better, because photography is just learning for the future, and when you can anticipate what's going to happen next, then you can make better decisions and take better photographs. So that's why I really wanted to dedicate a full episode just to anticipation. Because it means more than just one thing. Way more than just one thing. For this podcast, I have to tell you guys that reviews of the podcast remind me that I am on the right path. That I'm taking this podcast in a direction that aligns with my values and what I want to do with it. So if you would take the time to leave a simple review for the podcast, if you haven't already, I cannot tell you how happy it would make me to read that. I would love to read it here on the air. Is it considered on the air if it's recorded and not live? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look into that. But it would really, really make me excited, again, to know that I'm on the right path for you. So if you could just take the time to write a quick review in either iTunes or Stitcher, Google Play, wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast right now, I would really, really be appreciative if you could do that. And if you are on your phone right now and you don't have, whatever, you can just head over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com and you'll see some links right there at the top of where you can listen to the podcast. iTunes has the most weight for reviews. So if you have iTunes, just click the iTunes button right there. It'll open up iTunes on your computer or your phone as well. It should. I don't see why it wouldn't. And then you can just leave a review. Again, that's all that I got for today. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. I keep wanting to say interview. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And in the meantime, I want you to get out there and pay more attention to your anticipation. Be self-aware of things that you anticipate and see if there's any way that you can fast track, if using that anticipation can fast track you in a direction that you want to go, or if it's just something that you have to live with for the time being. But regardless, knowing the difference between anticipation and excitement will move your photography forward. So until next week, we're going to resume our regular scheduled interviews next week. I'm excited for that one. I want you guys to get outside, keep shooting everything that you are, share those photos, be safe, and I love you all. All right, later.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. Be sure to join the conversations on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want any links or resources we talked about in today's episode, check out the show notes at beginnerphotographypodcast.com. See you again next week.